Mac and Dan on the couch raise their hands. Nothing to do but make some plans. Popcorn's gone, the night's still young. Star Trek reruns, bang that drum. Bottles open, DS9's in sight. Captain Sisko leads the fight. Federation's calling from TV land. Phaser set to stun on high command. Boldly go where no one's been. Mac and Dan, the conquering team. Reviewing space with snarky lines. Drinking games and warping minds. Boldly go where no one's been. Mac and Dan, the conquering team. Reviewing space with snarky lines. Drinking games and warping minds. Starfleet calls echo loud. Max spills his drink, laughs out proud. Dan's got the joystick, they jump to warp. Star Trek's their ship across the starlit orb. Galactic wars and twisted schemes. Delightful chaos ruling their dreams. Unpolished words and witty flair. Review with mischief without a care. Boldly go where no one's been. Mac and Dan, the conquering team. Reviewing space with snarky lines. Drinking games and warping minds.
My wife just got home with groceries, so that's gonna have to do. All right, welcome to Board Trekless with Mac and Dan. I'm Dan.
And I'm Mac.
And there you go. He did it this time. This show is where two friends review every single episode of Star Trek while playing Star Trek Online. Today we are reviewing episodes 15 to 21, though it will be two parts. So, it'll be a part 1 and a part 2. The first episode. Go ahead.
Nothing. We're being stalked. We're being stalked by members of your fleet.
Excellent. The very first episode that we are. How you doing today? Everything good?
Me? Yeah, everything's great. Everything's good.
All right.
What about you?
Cool.
Are you good?
I'm good.
You good? You had a good day?
Yeah. Well,
It's
it
not
was
been
a
the
day.
worst day. Not been the worst day.
It's not been the worst day. Yeah, that's right. Oh, what do we got going on here? Everything locked up.
It looks like you've activated your macros by some way.
Yeah, I tapped a button, I think. There we go.
Currently standing on the bar like a hooligan.
Yay!
Yeah.
There we go. All right, cool. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to shut it down. All right, Star Trek. First episode is Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror.
The storyline behind this one is the Enterprise and what is up with the camera? All right, there we go. Enterprise answers a distress call from Federation Outpost 4. Boy, they had great names for stuff back then, didn't they? A monitoring station on the Federation side of the neutral zone and with the Romulan Empire. So I have questions about that. The outposts were established over a century ago, and no one has actually seen a Romulan. The Romulan vessel seems to have some type of high-energy explosive device as well as a cloaking device to make the ship invisible. When it appears the Romulans bear a strong resemblance to Vulcans, Kirk must deal with rebellious crew members, and he must also engage in dangerous cat-and-mouse game with a very intelligent Romulan commander. Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts? I am going to be entirely honest. I really like this episode. I think the balance of but first of all, the episode name is fantastic, right? I mean, who names things like that? That is a name for an episode, and I feel like they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing when they're calling it this, because there is elements of the cat and mouse chase being, fear of the unknown, but also of you know, the evidence in front of you, um, what they can do, what they have already achieved, and what they might achieve if they're allowed to get away. So, what about you? Anything specific about the episode before we jump into the actual analysis of it?
Um, no, I mean it was great, right? It's a great episode. Hey, Chosen, how are you? It's a great episode, and ironically, it is one of the episodes that they definitely say it's like it's definitely a must watch in season one.
Hmm.
Um,
We have a
you
queue,
know,
by the way.
it's gotcha. It starts with a wedding. Hey, look at us! We just jumped up and stood on the bar. Like what? Now we're both savages, right? All right, cool. Um, it starts with a wedding, and you've got old yeoman checkerboard hair hanging out,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is amazing.
It's always fun.
Honestly, like I'm really kind of curious because I remember her having a beehive hairdo, but not having checkerboard patterns weaved into the front of it. So I'm very interested to see if that's something that's going to change or if it's just there. But she's like in the back of the like behind Kirk in the scene, just like, "Hey, look at me, I'm on camera. You know. Um, I honestly didn't read the storyline or the synopsis ahead of time. I just hit play. So I wrote down all kinds of really funny notes at the beginning here. Identity unknown vessel. I was like, don't they know what the Romulans look like? Then at one point in time, it says that the listening post is in between Romulus and Remus. Isn't Remus where the Remans live?
I
Right?
I think the way that they worded it left it open to that interpretation, but when they show you the map, it very clearly is a line between the
Yeah, yeah,
Federation
yeah,
and
yeah,
Romulan
yeah,
space.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And
I
then
also like that on the map they don't call Remus Remus, they call it Romulus 2 or Rom 2, but it looks like
yeah,
Romy.
yeah, yeah. The other thing that I wrote down was the other thing that I wrote down about this is that they got the Hero Bridge crew and there is still no Chekhov, so
Hmm.
we still have yet to have our first Chekhov sighting. I'm very curious where that's going to come at. Again, we took bets, right? I said it's going to be like episode 3 or 4 of season 2, and you said it was going to be this season. So it's going to be interesting. I honestly don't know the answer. I haven't looked it up, and I'm very curious. It's one of those things I'm very curious about.
Hmm. I'm missing our boy Chekhov. Missing our boy Chekhov.
Yeah, we are missing our boy Chekhov. We want some hot like some sweet like Chekhov action. He's a cool character. I mean, he was Instant Harry Kim before Instant Harry Kim was a thing. I
He
mean,
was
wasn't he
cool
in it?
Harry Kim, yeah, the cool version of
Yeah,
Harry Kim.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was like if Harry Kim should have taken some lessons from old Chekhov, he would have probably gotten himself a lot more promoted. You know, just saying. Um, let's see. So then Spock does a really helpful thing, which he ties it all together for us and answered all those questions. Now, again, those questions are 2024 Star Trek knowledge, Dan. Like, wait, they don't know the Romulans. Why don't they know the Romulans? I don't understand that. Those kind of questions. But then Spock ties it all together by letting us know that, oh yeah, well, they were using atomic bombs and they haven't actually seen each other, and they were
Mm,
launching missiles from a long ways away. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, so this all sort of makes sense
mm, mm.
in that weird.
They lay the groundwork for the Romulan War that we've still never seen, but we've heard spoken about a number of times across different
Yeah,
series, as well
yeah.
as at least one of the movies, right? They talk about the Romulan War in
Mhm.
Star Trek Beyond, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's one of those things that we've been told about being this pivotal moment in the formation of the Federation and establishing its position within the quadrant of the galaxy in which it resides, and we've still never seen it. We've still never really seen it.
Yeah, we were gonna get it. We were gonna get it in Enterprise. I think. I mean, Ron Moore has said that that was going to be the next season was going to be the beginnings of the Romulan War, but it got canceled instead. So well,
Yeah.
that was a great decision, let me tell you. So like 100 years. So Spock reviews. It helps tie this all together. It's 100 years, and they say it like the one thing is the one guy that's the racist on the bridge is basically like uh, um,
Lots of family members of mine died in service
yeah.
during this war.
Yeah. But he basically says, it's a Romulan because it's got a bird of prey written on the. You're like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
all right, that's
Mhm.
cool. That's cool. Um, I wrote down Spock ear thing. Oh, the ear thing that he was wearing was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was crazy in this episode. Like it wasn't the standard communication one that
It's
he kind of
huge.
ends up with later,
Absolutely
but
massive.
it was
Yeah.
like sticking out of his head like 6 inches. I'm like, what the hell is that, right?
Hmm.
Um, um, yeah, my macro is still running.
Well,
Um,
that's silly.
so they and then the other thing that I noticed is that they're still talking about so like um Spock is in Starfleet,
Hmm.
but they're still talking about Earth. Uh, God, look at all of these clones of me just hanging out here. I'm stuck in the bar. Look at me.
Let's see if we can
I'm li-
fix that. Let's see if we can
Yeah,
fix that.
yeah, yeah. It's still talking. There's Spock is in Starfleet,
Hmm.
but we don't ever see any other real aliens in
Not yet.
aliens, not
Not yet.
non-humans in Starfleet, right?
Yeah, not yet.
So they're still talking about Earth outposts. It's not. There is no Federation of Planets still. It's still just about Earth.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is they in previous episodes, what was it, USPA? They called it.
Yeah. And they called it something else in an episode that we'll get to
Yeah,
today as well.
yeah.
They call it like,
Space Fleet
they-
Command. It's like,
yeah.
what?
It's like, what the hell's going on here,
And,
right? This is very, very strange. I don't understand what's happening, but that's cool. I don't have to understand. I wrote down there's a happy wedding day scene, and we get the phaser room, which we were talking about it earlier of like, are there rooms? I don't even know if we did this on stream. Did we
we
talk
did
about
this on
this on?
stream. Yeah. We talked about this on stream. Yeah.
Hey, Nath, we did talk about it on stream where we were like, are there like areas of the ship like and where like are there batteries or whatever? We didn't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. We talked about that.
Then we get to see, I guess, phaser. I don't know if it was phaser. I guess maybe it's
Uh,
phaser control.
yeah, it was phaser control. Yeah, because we come back to it again later in the episode as well, right? We see it at the start, and then we see it
Hmm.
later on because Spock saves the guy from the plasma leak or whatever it is that nearly
Hmm.
kills him, which cures him of his bigotry.
Yeah.
um,
How,
but yeah,
how that dude's reaction to shitting his pants when when that thing happens
yeah.
is just excellent. I mean, come on,
I
what's
thought
not
it
to
was
love?
shot really oddly though, because in that moment I thought that the way he was reacting, it was almost as if he was like, "I knew the Vulcan was a spy," not, "Oh my God, I'm dying because the air's been poisoned." It looked like it was the face of a man who suddenly had an epiphany that Spock was in fact the spy, not someone as my life's in danger. Um, I've got some notes for this one. Kirk starts a wedding. Gary too is the groom because he looks
Is
a
it
lot like, yeah. It's
like
Gary.
Gary what?
It's Gary too again. His name is Tomlinson, right? But like
Right. It's
it's
Gary.
another guy with the same haircut, a wee bit thinner in the face, but he's the same rank and he's the same department. So it
Love it.
all kind of fits in. Um, the Romulus Remus becomes Romulus and Romy or Rom 2, if that's how they're going with it. It kind of makes sense that it'd be Rom 2 as Rom II because everything about the Romulans was staged in a way to make them like the Roman Empire, so that would make sense.
Hmm.
The plasma fire is red, not green.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's
Right, the
interesting.
plasma fire is red, not green. Um,
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good
uh,
note.
Yep. Spock looks Romulan crew reprimanded for bigotry. It shows that in this version of the Star Trek universe, Gene Roddenberry hadn't quite nailed down this idea that it was meant to be a utopia and that they had got past all of this stuff. This was obviously a young version of the Federation where
Well, this wasn't
people
the
were,
Federation, right?
well,
It's
yeah,
just
but
Earth.
that's the
Earth.
thing, right? Is that it absolutely was because later on, later on, when we watch Star Trek Enterprise, that finishes off with the formation of the Federation, and then Kirk happens, right? Right.
Yeah.
So like it is, but at this moment in time, in terms of production and air date, you're right. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
the Federation is not as well established. The asteroid tail didn't work as they used different sensors slash their eyes. So the Romulans were working from a position of their sensors will be blinded by the trail of the comet, and the Federation's solution to that was we have a viewport, we can see the disturbance in the trail. We don't need to use our sensors for that, right? So it's this
Mm.
idea that the two enemies, that these two people have been enemies for over a century, but there's been like a quiet, like almost like a Cold War type thing, like a like almost like a peace time, 100-year peacetime, but not really. Tensions were obviously still going, and they have no idea what the other one is capable of, to the point where the Romulans didn't know that the humans had windows on their ships. Um, which I thought was excellent. Um, I I felt like the Romulan ship, at least in this version of Balance of Terror, I felt like they didn't do enough to really establish how dangerous the cloak and plasma torpedo combo was beyond just saying this is dangerous. Like we
Um,
see them, we see the whole this outpost have been destroyed and blah blah blah.
and it's X amount of meters in the middle of an iron core, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
You
like what
know.
does that mean? What does that mean to anybody that's watching this? Nobody watching this at the time would have had any idea what the hell he was talking about, right? And they don't really explain why it's dangerous beyond this is the hardest material that we know of, and it's turned it to peanut brittle. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Um, and that's it. Like that's the extent of it. They don't really drive home just how dangerous this type of weapon is. Um, But essentially, what it is, right, is it's the U-boat situation. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's the U-boat situation. It's an enemy that can appear from out of nowhere and hit you where you're weakest and then disappear again. That's what it is. Um, and I like that comparison. I do like that comparison. But I feel like they didn't do enough to really. I mean, it's meant to be the flagship. The Romulans even say at one point it's meant to be the Praetor's most dangerous flagship, and it doesn't really feel like it. It's also only got one room in it, seemingly. Uh, just fair enough.
Uh, there's an
Um,
there's an I saw a thing uh today or yesterday on a reel that I was just watching where it was two Romulans in TNG and they're on a spaceship and they're in the boardroom and they're like having an argument
mhm.
and then they just walk from there over onto the bridge. That's like that they're all in the same room. Like
Yeah,
so that is a theme that I guess they
they keep
continue
with.
forward.
Yeah. Last two notes. Ahura is asked to go to the con when our scary racist friend is told to go to the phaser room,
Mm-hmm.
and as Miss Nichols gets up off the seat, her tiny little miniskirt doesn't cover the
Her
red
bump.
the red pants that they have to wear underneath to try and mask the fact that the skirts are
Mm-hmm.
too short, and she essentially flashes us like her
Mm-hmm.
whole arse is just her whole
Mm-hmm.
backside is just on show for everyone to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the last lines of the Romulans like, I would have called you friend. This idea that both captains have a respect for each other. They've both got duties that they need to attend to. Um, they recognize something in each other that's familiar, but they're on opposite sides of a conflict that's just starting to heat up again. And then instead of handing himself over to what would be an enemy, he decides to destroy the ship with him and the whatever remains of his crew. Right? I quite like that. I quite like that bit. This idea that they were so similar, but because their cultures had been in a cold war for essentially 100 years, after doing tremendous damage to each other, that even though he recognised them as potentially a friend, he couldn't follow through on it. Right? This idea that we're
I
not so different, like the first fight after 100 years, and the captains literally go, "We're not so different, but we
mhm.
have we have our roles to play," and that's it. It's just like, or you could rise above it. You could just rise above it. Like,
Things that I wrote down is Hanson's comm badge
hmm
was was interesting. I say comm badge. It's not really comm badge. It's like the emblem on the shirt, but I couldn't come up with the emblem at the time. Um, I wrote down the Tillis is so badass. I mean, come on, you know.
the model of it for the digital release on Netflix, and I'm assuming on Paramount Plus, was pretty nice.
Mhm.
That was pretty nice.
Yeah. I found it really interesting. The cloak worked both ways. That seems ineffective.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
wrote. That's what I wrote down.
yeah.
I can't see you, but you can't see me,
I
but
can't
I
see
can't
you. Well, that
see
kind of makes
you.
sense, right? Like they're drawing
Well,
power
how the
from all the
fuck?
ship's systems, so the sensor system that would send out pings or
Right.
whatever and come back would give away their position. So I kind of get that.
Uh-huh. So how do they not run into shit? Was the question that I had. Right. I mean, I get it. Space is vast, or whatever, but you know. Um.
Maybe they've got windows.
At one point in time, yeah, exactly. At one point in time, the guy was like, "There could be Romulans right here on this ship," and I'm thinking to myself,
Where did
how
that
did they
come
get there?
from, right? Like,
Yeah,
so,
how did they get there? How did they get there? What's going on? Oh, did I? Oh, okay, we still haven't got the pop. All right, cool. Um, and then I wrote down like, so are we to believe that the Vulcans slash Romulans don't know each other?
so at this point, coming from a 2024 point of view, right? They haven't established that they're
Yeah,
cousins, right?
yeah,
Um,
right.
but I thought it was an interesting idea that they lay that groundwork here where they are so similar, but they leave it open. They don't really explain too much how
Yeah,
that works.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, I thought that was an interesting one. Thought that was interesting.
This was filmed and aired in 1966,
hmm
and in 1966, obviously, America was in the middle of a war. There's a lot of like comrades, listen here, comrade, go talk to the commissar. A very Russian war machine like iconography that's being used in this, and it was like Uh, and then the next thing that I wrote down is what year was Enterprise set in? I didn't look this up either. Was it 100 years before this?
That's a
Was it
very good
100 years?
question. I don't know.
You know, yeah, exactly like, um, they wrote, and then one of the last things I wrote down was like there were 22 casualties from radiation burns.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
love that you're laughing as you say that. These people were melted. Like,
I mean, I hear you, but I like to, like, Jim and I had an interesting conversation where it was like, well, wait, okay, so they all died. Like, how fast do you think that? I mean, this is space and space travel, and a lot of times they're traveling around at warp one. Like, how fast are they really going, and how far are they really getting, and
I
how?
think it was interesting that the radiation from a nuclear weapon managed to penetrate the hull when a spaceship, by its very
Hmm.
nature, would need to have
Hmm.
some sort of systems to prevent space radiation in space from penetrating the hull because they don't
Well,
just
did
fly
we
around with their
know
shields
that?
on, right?
Well, did we know that in 1966 when the space race is in the 60s, right? But later in the 60s, so we hadn't even really had in 66, and we hadn't even made it to the moon,
Yeah,
right? So we hadn't gone through that radiation belt that we know is out there now.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's a very, very, very good episode. It's really, it's a high on my list from season one that we've watched so far.
Yeah.
Um, um, I found it to be very enjoyable. Obviously, the guy who plays the captain is great. Give me a second, I'll look up his name
Comes
because
comes
I.
back later. Comes
Mm-hmm.
back later as Spock's father, Savick.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Savick, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you do a good job in Star Trek, you always get asked to come back and put on some ears or put some new bumps on your forehead and play a different character,
Today
right?
you're Alien 5. Last time you were Alien 3. That's a
Yeah,
promotion,
yeah,
eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So I definitely enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Yeah.
I've finished up this TFO and then
Oh,
we can.
whoa! I took like 5 warp core breaches, all one after the other. There, that was not a good. That was not good from me.
Oh, I'm at the 1%. I'm at the 1%, buddy. So I hear you.
Ooh. Oh no, no, no! both is in that last minute.
Yeah, I was going down. There was no stopping that, right?
My ship is doing funny animations as I warp towards the Unimatrix
Oh yeah.
vessels. See that?
Oh, is it dead? Are you dead warping? So I warped in at a weird spot again, alive. There's a bug in Hive in HSC or
Yeah,
Hive right now.
yeah.
There is a bug.
No, good episode. Would say very good episode. Do we have
Mhm.
a science in here? We do. Let's see if we can kill her before she messes us up.
I guess it would help if I turned the necker. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Look at there.
Okay, episode 1 of 7 done. Right.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Balance and Terror. At the moment in time, how would you rate it? What would you say? Must watch, good
Uh,
watch.
but definitely a must. In season one, it's definitely a must watch. Um, whether, and it seems to hold up too. It obviously, I mean, I watched it in 2024, so it held up pretty well, right? Pretty good.
Hmm.
The actor is Mark Leonard, the guy that eventually plays Savick. He's known for he was Sarek in Search for Spock and A Voyage Home and Undiscovered Country. He is a Klingon captain in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Hmm, interesting. So
Oh,
we're gonna
so
see.
he would be one of the Klingon captains in the one of the 2 or 3 ships that get destroyed by V'ger right at the start. Then.
Like I said, you get called back and get different bumps for your forehead. So
Yeah.
I
He
guess
got to
I
die
guess he's
straight
an
away this time.
I guess he's gonna get some
Yeah.
bumps, and he does that set of bumps so well that they put a different set of ears on him and bring him back, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
All right,
Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
all right, all right. So season one, episode 16 is Shorely is the name of the episode. The past months have left the crew exhausted and in desperate need of a break, but does this explain McCoy's encounter with a human-sized white rabbit or Kirk's crossing paths with the prankster who plagued his days at Starfleet Academy? Oy.
This episode was interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it without going straight into
Oh,
it and
oh,
tearing it to pieces. But it was interesting.
oh no! I plan to crap on this one pretty good. Uh, uh, um, so yeomen must have to service the captain, right? And are there male yeomen? That was the question. How come all the yeomen are female?
There is male yeoman, and we know there is because in the pilot episode, which didn't air until much later for airtime, but we watched it as episode 0. The first yeoman you meet is a male yeoman.
Did he die? And then they
No,
talked about it.
no, no. Sure,
Females? Okay.
sure. The captain and stuff, Captain Pike and stuff. In that episode, they all decide they're going down to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And the yeoman turns to the other blue-shirted, I say blue shirt, the kind of pastel blue-shirted colleague of his, and they both just shrug shoulders at each other, and it's like disrespect on the bridge, episode 1, like straight away. Um, So there has been at least one, but I suspect that it's probably changed now for reasons. Did I
Are
put
we
us in?
queued?
I,
We
I
are
did.
not queued. No.
I did put us in.
I think we're just standing here waiting.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. I love how you can't just stand up out of a chair without standing on the bar.
I know it's ridiculous.
So I wrote down Finnegan is so racist, but Irish people they just don't care.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, the new
you know,
Lunchbox ship's in here with us. Oh.
uh,
Ooh.
for those that haven't seen it, I watched Casual SAB build it out today,
Yeah.
and do a stream with it. It was very very good.
Excellent.
He basically said it does a lot of things very very well, but none of them are really needed, and you know it's not an upgrade over anything that we're already doing or we already have access to.
Okay.
So it's just basically another mirror. It's a Bardwar Juggernaut
Is it
with,
just a Varbo Juggernaut?
but it's got different inertia, so it turns a little better, handles a little better, that kind of stuff. But
What about the trait and the console? They both sounded like they could be really interesting.
um, I can tell you the console wasn't really hitting very well in the build that I saw, and
Okay.
he said the trade is below 50% to proc, so it's not really terribly useful.
Right, cool. No bother. Right, back to the episode then. Screw the new
Yeah.
ship.
I'm not.
Yeah, so what have we got? Before we go down to the planet and we see all the nonsense, I've got for my first note is Kirk gets hot with Mr. Spock, back injury, actually the yeoman, disappointing.
Yeah, 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 dude. Like rub my back, yeoman. Like so creepy, dude.
No,
So
well, he thought it
creepy.
was Spock. He thought it was Spock, and he was totally fine with speaking to Spock like that. But as soon as it was a yeoman or a female member of the crew, he was like, "Oh, that's weird. Please stop. Please stop."
I love uh 60s TV. It's amazing.
Ridiculous, ridiculous.
I wrote down like they go down to the planet, right? We get yeoman sexual assault. Different yeoman, not yeoman Rand, but
Yeah,
different yeoman.
I've got
Uh,
DeForest Kelly can't say Alice in Wonderland.
yeah, I didn't notice that one. That's a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah, like I put it back a couple of times just to try and figure out exactly what he said, and it sounds like he said Adley's instead of Alice. How you get that wrong, I don't know. And I guess in terms of the way they filmed it back then, it was like you get it right once, or you need to shoot it again once, and that's it. You only get like 2 tries. So maybe that if that was the best version of that they picked up, then God, the other ones must have been bad. So
So one of the things that I picked up on was they're trying to use their communicators and they can't, and the answer was to turn up the gain. And I'm thinking to myself, this is very 1960s technology.
mhm.
Then the next thing that I wrote down was this is a super dumb episode and I hate this. They went from the penthouse to the outhouse.
Mhm.
I mean, uh,
Yeah.
so they,
Balance of Terror would always be a hard episode to follow, though, right? Because it was even
well,
we have good things to say about it, but it was rated like one of the best episodes ever. So
yeah. Uh,
uh,
this one's just wow. How yeah, wow.
yeah,
I said we're back to mental games again. How come no one was ever thought of like prostitutes or something? Like how come it was Alice in Wonderland and like I guess kind of Bones did sort of at the end there,
yeah.
but you know.
It was kind of a
Uh,
mix of it was kind of a mix of mind games, television stuff, but also um, oh God, the planet with the robots, the androids. It was Ruck, wasn't it? How are you doing today, friend? I'm hyped for the revamp of the Sol system coming out in a month. I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like when it's fully done as well. I'm very much looking forward to
um,
it.
I saw Spencer had on stream today. Spencer had it was showing us the Earth actually rotates now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't rotate very fast, but it definitely rotates.
What's 6,500 miles a minute between friends, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Uh,
they
I
numbered the crew on the ship again. Crew of
mhm,
430.
mhm,
Yep.
mhm.
Tell us the crew number again. 430.
I wrote down that Kurt's stuntman in this one with the Finnegan fight, he was so bad, just so bad. Like,
Hmm.
oh, I mean, oh,
Can we address that the Finnegan fist fight towards the end was a solid 5 to 6 minutes of just the two of them slapping the crap out of each other, instead of it just being oh, we're done. Yeah, the fight started, the fight's over. It was literally
mhm.
5 minutes of just two men beating each other up and rolling down
Well,
hills. Like,
well, maybe they just needed some filler because the rest of this episode was garbage. Did you
yeah.
notice that the tiger, right?
Hmm.
The tiger, when it
Had a
gets to the
chain.
Finnegan,
Had a chain.
yeah,
Yeah.
chain around his
Yeah,
neck, yeah,
because he's chained to the ground so that he doesn't attack anyone while they're on set. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he's got a
Okay,
chin.
nice.
Tiger's got a chin. I've got at the start of the episode, what's his Spock gives Kirk sass about R&R. So like, Spock, Kirk's not going to go down to the planet, and then Spock's like, oh, there's a guy in the crew who's not, being productive. His performance is down. It could put people on the ship at risk. And Kirk's like, who is it? I'll tell him. He's going. I'll order him to relax. And then it's like, oh, sure, sure, go have a holiday.
So, all right, so
Sulu gets a
ho-
gun and just starts shooting it,
yeah, he's like, oh,
despite
look,
it
it's a
being a
gun. Let me.
collector's item. So we've just got George Takei again playing Sulu as like a psychopath, just as like a crazy person that happens to work on a Federation starship.
Yeah, that was good times. That was good
It's like,
times.
oh, I need to get some plant material. Bang, bang, bang.
Um, um, oh, back to your content about Spock and Kurt and and the sass about R&R.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, we need to like make a mental note of this because I have a feeling this is going to come back up in TNG and it's going to come back up in Enterprise.
What, the captain not taking R&R?
Not taking R&R, and I think that this is going to come back up in TNG. I think it's going to be
It definitely comes up in Voyager. It definitely comes up in Voyager.
Oh, it definitely comes up in Voyage. Oh, yeah. So
Hmm.
I have a
Hmm.
feeling this is going to be a trope that we're going to be like, hey, look, they're reusing that bullshit again. You know?
Kirk works too hard. Picard works too
Yeah.
hard. Archer works too hard.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I don't think they ever do it. No, because Cisco always took R&R. Cisco was always like, let's go see the fire caves
It's
and let's
because
go to here.
it's because Cisco was so full of rage. If he didn't take R&R, he would have killed everyone on that station. You're just an
There we go.
angry, angry man. You don't need to be the prophet to tell that somebody's going to be getting their ass kicked. Um,
Uh, he punched the
let's
Q. He
let's
punched the
see.
Q. Wait, we figure this out.
I'm not Picard, yeah. Sulu gets again. Finnegan is an asshole. Kirk goes with it for some strange reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what was with all? So I don't know if you noticed this, right? But as they were running through in the first part of the episode, and then later on as well, when the human was assaulted by Don Juan the first time, um, there was lots of red dust on trees and plants for some reason. Like, there was plenty of normal trees and plants in the environment, right? But every so often they would pass like another tree that was the same as everything else, or another bush that was the same as everything else, and it would just have this weird red dust all over it, as if it looked like somebody had sprayed. You know when you spray paint a tree that's sick to be cut down,
Hmm.
right? A lot of the plants that they were passing were spray painted like that, or appear to be spray painted like that. And I'm wondering if when they filmed that, it was outdoors somewhere that was in the process of being lined out to have stuff chopped down because the plants had a sickness, because it looked exactly like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that they run from like this beautiful lush forest into a desert in like 12 steps.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
they're in the American Western desert.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
What else have I got here? Ruth chews off Kirk's right cheek because that's normal. So when so when Kirk sees Ruth for the first time, she approaches him, and they have like a moment where he can't believe it's her, and she gets close and stuff. And then she goes in for what I was assuming was going to be like a kiss or something, because it wouldn't be the first time we've seen Kirk just randomly smack the lips on a fake person, right?
Hmm.
And instead of kissing him, she like moves in for a cheek kiss and then proceeds to actually just chew on his cheek. Just it's weird. I don't know. It caught me off guard. I was like, "What the hell is this? Why is this weird? Like, what's going on here? Why are we suddenly afraid to have two of the actors kissing on set when we've literally had it in every episode or every other episode for the last 15 episodes? Like, even when it didn't make sense, it was happening, and now that it does make sense, it's not happening. Like, what's going on? Um,
Yeah.
Finnegan's music is unnecessarily offensive because
I
Irish
tell
people
you, dude.
don't have real feelings. I put that down as a note. Um,
Yeah.
no,
Like I wrote it down. It's like Finnegan is super. That the portrayal of finishing Finnegan is as offensive as
as it could have been.
Notre Dame's The Fighting Irish, which is a drunk Irish guy, a little short drunk Irish guy throwing beer bottles. Right. That's their that's their
That's Finnegan.
mascot.
Yeah, that's Finnegan. Yeah, yeah.
Finnegan was the guy from Notre Dame. It was. Ugh.
So dumb. So dumb.
It's such a
It was so cheesy and unnecessary. And the
and,
episode
and
wasn't good to begin with, and this was just like one of the super low notes of it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I wrote down the uniforms rip too easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, haven't we come up with better materials by then? Like it seems like everybody could just get their clothes just ripped off of them right away. It's like you could just grab everybody by the collar and just rip down, and they'd be standing there in
Yeah,
their
well they don't
starters.
yeah, they don't sew their tops together anymore. All the seams are just Velcro. Right.
Yeah,
They're all
yeah.
just Velcro.
Yeah. Well, like the one thing that Kurt wears all the time, that green like V-neck thing. Like
Hmm.
if you look at it, it's just like a piece of cloth that wraps all the way around him with two sleeves in it,
Yeah, and then it's
right?
stitched in at his hip, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At one
I
tiny
thought it
bit
was
on his hip.
yeah, it's snapped in at the hip or something. Yeah. The last thing that I wrote down for this episode is that the yeoman jealousy at the very end was just awful.
That's the second time
So
they've done that, though, right? That's the
yeah,
second time they've done that. Who would have been Eve? It's like we don't care.
yeah,
No one cares.
yeah. So cheesy, and so unnecessary. You
Hmm.
know, ugh. I don't know. What would you rate this one?
Um, I would say this is maybe a strong 3 out of 10, maybe a weak 4. The premise of an alien species who, I mean, it comes up again. I don't know if it comes up again in TOS, but it certainly comes up again in other series that we'll come across later, where we have beings who can interpret the needs and wants of individuals through their thoughts and try to provide them with it. And because they don't understand them, they make a mess of it, right? It's not the first time. It's the first time we've seen it in this kind of way, but it won't be the last time we see it.
I'm gonna say it's a 2.
Okay.
I mean, you can watch it without cringing. Probably if you've never seen it, you should watch it just because it's like, I mean, you're never going to get that 45 minutes back, but you're it's worth seeing at least once. But if you've seen it before,
Never again.
yeah.
I quite like
Where's
the
the?
look of that ship. She's dead. She's already dead.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I do quite like it. I quite like it.
Let's see here.
It feels like it could be a Ferengi ship, right?
Nukara. Yeah. Yeah. Let's take some 8472 marks.
Yeah. And
Hey,
my last note for the episode was 5 minute fist fight, because I honestly couldn't get over how unnecessarily long that was. Like there was no story development. It
it's
wasn't
just a,
particularly action packed. It was literally just a fist fight for 5 minutes, and it was. I'll be honest, it was boring. It was boring because it wasn't even a good fist fight for 5 minutes. That's my seat. You can have that one at the end where we keep getting stuck.
Yeah. Hey, Morn, how are you, buddy? You talk too much.
He talks too much. He never shuts up.
He never shuts up.
God, he's such a
Yeah.
pain in the backside, honestly. I wish he would
All
go
right.
away.
All right, let's see here. So I'm hearing this episode gets 2 bottles of blood wine. Yes, 2 bottles of blood wine. There you go. Yeah, I give it 2 bottles of blood wine because that's how many you need to drink to actually be able to stomach watching it.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
All right. Episode 16, the Galileo 7. The Galileo, under Spock's command, crash lands on a hostile planet. As the Enterprise races against time to find the shuttlecraft, Spock's strictly logical leadership clashes with the fears and resentment of the crew.
Yes.
Hmm.
My first note is after the crash. So they come up to a planet. Planet messes them up. They crash on the planet, right? I can't remember. Did they actually explain why they were in the shuttlecraft in the first place, or are we just in
Yeah.
a shuttlecraft and we crash?
No. So the first thing that I wrote down is Galactic Commissioner question mark
Oh
like
yeah, the commissioner's a twat. That's my second note.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that he's got a. I like that Kirk says, "I've got a standing order to investigate all quasars." What? Like, why is that a thing? Right? Why is that a thing? But okay, cool. The next thing that I wrote down was updated shuttle exterior? Question mark. Seems
hmm
so.
Yeah.
When they took off from the thing, so they've updated a lot of stuff. Oh,
hmm
yeah, cool enough. Are you here? They must be. You must be in. You must be here somewhere. You're sending me friends requests. Um, but I don't see you. Sneaky, sneaky Noth. He's hiding somewhere. Anyway, um, let me get back to Streamlabs so I can keep an eye on chat. Let's see.
Everybody bleeds purple. I don't know if you noticed this. They crashed.
Mhm,
And everybody that was bleeding, I think it was just the pilot, right?
mhm.
Had a bleeding nose, and his nose blood was the same color as Quark's jacket.
No, I didn't notice
Yeah,
that.
he was bleeding like purple. It was weird.
Mhm. Yeah, and it was like, here's a hanky, and he wipes it up, and
Yeah,
that's
and
the end
that's
of
it. It's
it.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not like
it's
got
done.
any internal bleeding. We're just kind of like, he's fine. Um,
One thing that I wrote down was it's a Type M planet.
mhm.
Is that the first reference to? I think that's the first
I think it
reference to a
is. Yeah,
Type M,
yeah.
right?
Type M. Yeah,
Right?
it's also, funnily enough, the tutorial planet for the TOS
Yeah,
characters
TOS.
in Stowe.
That's
So,
actually
yeah,
the next thing that I wrote down was
yeah.
TOS Stowe episode in Stowe. Interesting. I forgot about this. And then the next thing I wrote down is that spear was huge. It was like that guy was
It's
throwing tree
It
trunks
was
at him.
massive, absolutely massive, and I love the way they did the force perspective later on as well, where he's slamming the rock into the shuttle, and it's just
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
just him standing on a raised platform behind the shuttle, and he's hitting it away like a fake rock, but it's meant to make
Yeah.
it look like he's super tall, and he's slamming this boulder into it. What else did I put? Let's see. Spock wants to be in command when it suits the survival of the away team, but not when it interferes with those. Not when it interferes with those efforts. So giant spears the size of trees. Inevitably, somebody gets slammed right in the chest with one. Latimer,
Mm.
was it? Gets
Yeah.
absolutely mullered by this tree trunk spear. Right, the lad goes
Yeah.
down like a sack of potatoes. He's got no chance, and
Yeah.
entirely understandable because
Well,
it is
when
a
and
big
then
spear.
when they pull the spear out and Spock looks at it, there's blood on that thing
Yeah.
like 9 or 10 inches, like at
Yeah,
least like it went all the way
it's
through it.
went right through him, and when when Spock's picked up this spear, he's like split this guy in half, right? Just to examine the stick. Um,
Yeah.
and then they decide that it's okay to take him back to the shuttle because it won't impede their efforts to get back to the ship. And then they go back to fixing the shuttlecraft, and they're like, Spock, you should say some words because we need to bury him. And Spock's like, I've not got time to say words for someone who's not here to hear them. because we need to get off this planet, and this is more important. And literally everyone says to him, "You're being an ass. Go and say some words." And he's like, "Doctor, you go do it instead." It's just like, I am not interested in giving any respect to the man that is dead, and was literally split in half by a giant spear. Like, no interest at all. Pass me the spanner. That's like, that's literally it. Um, it's kind of
Spock
weird.
Spock always talks in Earth terms too, because he said something like Folsom Point or Fulcrum Point or something like that. It was some place on like he made on Earth,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
which I thought was it's just weird. You know, it's just
Thank you for
why are we
the
always doing? Why are we always? Why
thank you
does
for
he
the follow,
always
but
not like? Oh,
um,
This looks like the freaking blah
I
blah blah mountain on Vulcan where I went for my. No,
I appreciate the
it's
follow and
always hey, this is
hope
the
to see you
beach
again
outside of
soon,
Boston. You
Sargareth.
know,
All right,
I
have
don't
a
know. There's
hopefully
just
your
something
appointment's
weird
good.
about that. Like again,
Good news.
2024 eyes, right? Um, Oh, there was something else, and I didn't write it down in the last episode, but I wrote it down in this one because this is the second episode in a row where Bones physically grabs a yeoman by the arm and moves her to a place and says, "Stand there," or crowd, and it was just like, wow, we're just yoking chicks up nowadays, huh? Just gonna
Hmm.
put them wherever we want them. It's
Well,
Blech.
I understand exactly where you're coming from with that, but I also understand why he's done that, right? Because the instances where that's came up, um, they are in the way, like they are actually in the way. And when you think about the role they fill in the day-to-day operation of the ship, they're essentially note takers, right? Like they're essentially just PAs for the
Mm-hmm.
senior staff. So they have to be available to them all times. But when you actually look at the spaces that the crew is operating in, that isn't really any big enough spaces to have more than the crew members that are supposed to be there for the manned stations. Not really. And then you've just got people floating around with digital clipboards and then also actual clipboards, taking notes and writing things down and, passing notes to people. And it's kind of like you're in the way. Like you're actually in the way. I'm not saying if a woman is in your way, you should just pick her up and move her. What I'm saying is I understand the frustration of I'm a senior member of the team. I have a very important job to do. People's lives might be at risk, and you're actively getting in my way, right? I can understand that frustration. I don't agree with just moving people physically because they're in the way,
You
unless
don't
they're
want to just
being unless they're being deliberately obstructive, right?
you don't want to just you don't want to just yoke girls up and move them around. Grab them by the bicep and like kind of tip them, pick them up on their tippy
No,
toes and walk them
no,
across
I
the
don't
room. Then
think
go,
it's
you stand against this wall. You don't want to do that. You don't think
no,
that's a good
I
idea?
don't think
Okay.
it's necessary. I think in a professional environment, especially in a professional environment, right? You should be able to speak to the people you work with in a respectful manner and ask them, could they kindly move? Because they're actively
Move, bitch.
impeding your ability to do your job, right?
What is it? Move, bitch. Get out
Get
the
out the
way.
way. Yeah, no, no, none of that. None
Um,
of that in an advanced society with evolved sensibilities. Think it. So,
is that where we are? We're in an advanced. It doesn't feel very advanced. And again,
not yet. No, not yet. But
so
Picard says
did
that at
you
some point.
notice? Did you notice the two different size shields, right? What they did, again, this is one of those forced perspective things that they did, which was pretty funny, right?
Hmm.
When the bad guy's holding the shield,
Hmm.
um um he's like and then I don't remember if he just dropped like they shoot him in the shield and then he drops the shield or whatever. When he drops that shield, like they could have lived under that shield forever and had room to like for like everybody to have their own bedroom and
Yeah,
what because it was enormous.
it was
So I
absolutely
thought that
massive.
was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I wrote down Scotty is SMART, 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 smart. How come Spock didn't think of that? you know. I thought Spock was supposed to be smart, but I guess he's just logical.
He's smart and he's a science like officer, but our man Scotty is engineering, right? So, and it's an engineering problem. Otherwise, what would be the point in not having a crew of essentially entirely Vulcan officers, right?
Hmm. Hmm. So it's very interesting when we get to Enterprise, right? There's so many things. Enterprise, if anything, like it's like DePaul, go help Tucker. Like, because DePaul's way smarter than humans.
Yeah,
Um,
I think in
um,
that from that show though, that perspective was the NX-01 with the Warp 5 engine was a joint project with the Vulcans, right?
mhm.
So they were working with technology that the Vulcans knew more about than they did, so that kind of makes sense in that perspective. But at this point in this the history, the characters are supposed to be competent with the ship they're flying, right?
So when I wrote down when the crewmen go out, or I guess when the crewman gets told to stay behind and guard and report, right? The crewman is there, and the bad guys attack again, and he drops his gun, and he's just like, "Nah, I'm not gonna try to find that, even though I dropped it like at my feet. I'm not gonna bother looking for it. I'm just gonna run and try to climb up this
Hmm.
cliff because that's gonna work really well."
Yeah, people climb
Um,
cliffs all the time. What are you talking about?
yeah,
Not
they
all of them
do.
climb back down, but
Yeah,
people climb up
yeah.
cliffs all the. What was it? Remember everybody on Mount Everest was at one point in time a very motivated person.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
calm down. So
uh,
maybe calm down a
so
little
maybe
bit.
calm down a
Absolutely.
little bit. Yeah.
Let's see. Did you notice that the one of the spears chips off a big chunk of foam when it's thrown at Spock?
Yes. Yeah.
It's from one of the foam rocks.
That was the last time they used that set piece. They had to turn it around after that, right? But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff like that going to be coming up soon, where high impact acting in the sets is going to damage them, and they only have one or two takes to get it right. So if the take that they get it right is the one where that's in it, they just leave it in. Um, but I mean, that's again same thing, right? The pilot episode, Leonard Nimoy clearly has injured his leg because you see him limping all the way through that episode, but there's never any point where he's flung about in the episode where he should have hurt himself. So it's obviously not related to filming, unless it was done
Yeah.
on set as an accident, right? So things like that are going to slip through. Like, of course, they're going to slip through. Um,
Um,
yeah.
I wrote down I like Spock in charge. Like
Spoken
I
charge is
like
good, yeah. Yeah.
I like Spock in charge. It was good. It was good.
What have we got? So they manage to repair the shuttle. They get off the planet back up into space, and then it doesn't quite work out. So they have to jettison their fuel and ignite it to get the attention of anyone nearby. And it's a desperate attempt to survive, and it works. Right? They get rescued. Um, what's that just came in today? Ah, right. Um, So, sorry, I was just reading a message about somebody that's came back to the game after 10 years after buying the lifetime sub. He's got 60,000 Zen sitting to spin. Um,
Oh, that's nice.
that'll last
He's gonna
2 minutes. Will last literally 2 minutes.
oh, wait for
Um,
Black Friday. Don't
I'd wait
spend
to
it
Black
now.
Friday, yeah. Um, so they do get rescued, right? And then we immediately, I don't know if you noticed this, but as soon as they're rescued, a crewman's dead. The shuttle was badly damaged. You know, it's been a hell of a task. And
Didn't they? Didn't no? The shuttle doesn't. They beam the living
you're
crew off
right.
of there,
You're
right?
absolutely right. Yeah, because the shuttle falls back into orbit and then burns up. Yeah. Um, you're correct. You're correct. But once they're back on the ship, it's just back to normal operations. Like there's no debrief. There's no nothing like that. They just go straight back to their stations as if they weren't just stranded in a planet with giant
Yeah, yeah,
monsters,
like yeah,
right?
yeah. No,
And
like we should
and
probably
then
tell somebody about this
yeah,
or anything.
like
Oh,
maybe put up a warning buoy or something. It's like don't go near the planet, you'll crash. Oh, and also murderous giants with spears the size of small trees. Um,
no.
but instead of being like a man has died, we've lost a shuttlecraft. You were very lucky to make it out with so few casualties and whatever. Um, let's talk about how Spock made an emotional decision to jettison the fuel. in an act of desperation. And he's like, they're trying to make fun of him. They're trying to make fun of him, and he's like, well, it was a logical decision because there was no other options available, so it was the last thing to do, right? Is the
Oh,
desperate maneuver. And
I
he
thought
gives
it
them a
was.
wee smirk because Spock is a goddamn diva and nobody's figured this out yet. Like
I,
he's like, yes, I'm super smart. Yes.
SMART.
That's
Smart, smart, smart.
smart, smart, smart.
I'm not as smart as Scotty because I couldn't figure out how to recharge the things with the phasers, but I'm pretty smart. Yeah. Um. Yeah. You know what? The thing that I. This is the thing that I. Warp factor one, right? Like they're always like, whenever they're leaving someplace, they're like warp factor one. Isn't that like walking? Like they're walking. It's gonna take them 3 months to get anywhere. I cannot get. I'm stuck on the bar again.
No, you're good. You're good. Just
Uh,
stop moving, and your character will just stand still, right? Um, so my understanding of the warp factor scale is that warp factor one is essentially just more than full impulse, right? And
yeah, yeah.
they use that to get out of system, and then they go up to full speed. Um, because at this point in time, I think the rule is in place that you have to warp to the edge of a system and then warp one or sublight your way to your destination in system. Because sensors aren't
Ah,
advanced enough at this stage to be able to warp
okay.
in
All
system
right.
and not hit something because there's like in system traffic or asteroids
All
or
right.
comets or
All right.
whatever, right?
All right. I will accept. I will accept your. I will accept hypothesis. What do you rate this episode?
Um, in terms of story, I don't think the story's very good. The acting, as always, is tremendously camp. Uh, the additional crew members in this one, not the senior crew that was on the planet with them. Um, I think they did a good job of carrying the story a wee bit because it wasn't terribly, it wasn't terribly involved. So their individual character stories were more interesting than the actual situation they found themselves in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think this would probably be for me like a five or a six.
Okay.
Would you
I,
say
I
five? Yeah, just say five. It's like an average episode. It's not terrible. It's not a bad episode. It's not a great episode. I don't regret watching it, which is very important. But at the same time, I don't feel like you need to watch it because it doesn't feel like it terribly enriches the universe or the character development of people or anything like that. So,
Well, basing it off of the tier list of tens being must watch, five being holodeck episodes, and ones being avoid at all cost, I'm gonna give this a seven. So I thought it was a little bit better than a holodeck episode. Yes, it's campy, um, but I don't know. I thought it was. I thought it was. I thought it was. I didn't. I didn't hate it. It wasn't. It wasn't great. I didn't hate it. So it's still like 7 bottles of blood wine, 5 bottles of blood wine.
yeah,
All right.
it certainly wasn't the worst episode out of these seven by any stretch of the imagination.
No, no, no. All right, the next episode is let's see. Let me get up here. It is The Squire of Gothos. Gothos.
Gothos, yeah, yeah.
The summary, the very quick summary, which is what I'm going to start reading instead of the review summaries down farther down the IMDb page, is a being that controls matter and creates planets wants to play with the Enterprise crew.
Hmm.
Hmm. What are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts. If memory serves, we were talking about this episode inadvertently, literally just the other week, weren't we? Um, because when we came to this episode, I was like, oh, I remember this. We were just talking about this. Um,
Hmm.
our man Trelane, I actually quite liked this episode. It was ridiculous. It was straight up ridiculous, but I think it was probably one of the better ridiculous episodes. You know, like we're having a sci-fi show where we've got a dude rocking about in like 1600 dress, playing pianos, dancing, shooting pistols,
Not pianos, harpsichords.
harpsichords. Sorry, you're right, harpsichords.
They took it off the Adams Family set. I'm sure. Just reused it,
Just
right?
reused it, probably. Probably. I mean, they were reusing everything, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also like this idea that they tried to educate people on the nature of space versus time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like you're looking into the past because you're using a super advanced telescope that lets you
Mm-hmm.
see really far away. But
Light lets you see light, but
yeah,
light takes a long time to get here, right? So
but light in space is time. So um, yeah, it was good. I quite liked it. I quite liked this episode. It felt what the hell am I even doing here?
uh,
It felt uh I liked it. I liked it. What have I got? My first note for the episode is literally Sailor learns magic and disappears. Then Kirk decides he's gonna follow too.
so
Um,
the very first thing I wrote down is tally ho,
Tally
because
ho!
that I don't know why somebody yelled tally ho and I just thought it was funny. Um,
It was your man Trelane.
oh, is it Trelane?
Yeah,
Trelane
it's
Red? Yeah,
Trelane.
I could. All right,
Tally
tally
ho!
ho. Yeah. Okay, Trelane. You're good, buddy. All right, I'm gonna switch ships too. By the way,
Yeah.
give me a second here.
Once we have done that, I am gonna put us in for a thing. I was just messing with my guy's forehead ridges.
All right, I
Headed
am good.
Taylor. Cool. I'm on my way back to the bar.
Oh, I am too. I'm heading back to Quark's because if you're gonna hang out at Quark's, you gotta go hang out with. What's up, Warren? I'm gonna sit on the other side of him though.
More. Yeah. Let's
All right,
let's see
Warren.
if we can. Let's see if we can not get stuck in the bar this time.
Probably
Um,
not.
what else have I got? Weird old timey chat from the surface as a telegram to the comm station.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm usually really good at reading Gothic script, right? Um, and I got greetings but felicitations totally threw me. Like I did not know what that word said at all. I was trying so desperately to read it, and I'm like, I no, nope, it's done. Um, everyone goes on a trip to the surface except Spock and Scotty. Literally everyone on the bridge just ups and outs down to the transporter pad and away they go because it's not like we've just seen people getting whipped off the ship as if by magic. It just yeah, let's all just go. Um, they have
Uh,
a laser beacon with them, some sort of laser beacon thing.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And it was just this again, just the eye for the stupid small details. The actor that plays the Sal, the tactical guy that goes down with them, when he
mm-hmm.
activates the laser beacon, he has a bruised fingernail. He has one bruised
Okay.
fingernail. He's holding the beacon in his hand and he presses the on button, and his middle finger is right in the middle of the shot. And his whole hand, he's a white guy. He's got a white guy's hand. He's holding a grey orb, a grey kind of oval shaped orb kind of thing with a big point about the top of it that flashes, designed to draw your eye to it. And he's just got this big black fingernail, and it
Mm-hmm.
totally caught my attention. I could not stop looking at it, and every time he was on the screen after that, I was looking for his hand to see if it'd been fixed or if it was meant to be a story. No idea. Absolutely no
So
idea.
the atmosphere is toxic, right?
On the
Right. There
planet,
was
yes, yeah.
Yeah, its atmosphere was on the planet was toxic. When they had that ice thing that like the spores that got into the people and made them crazy or whatever,
hmm
like they were wearing trash bags or like shower curtains and hoods and
hmm
stuff like that. They were on a planet that has a toxic atmosphere. Is a toxic atmosphere not going to irritate the skin at all? Because they just had like a mask over their nose and mouth. That was it.
Yeah, and even then, that mask was really piss poor. Did you not think?
It was an
Um,
oxygen mask off of the EMTs loaned them 3 oxygen masks for the day or something. It was
yeah,
weird.
and then they find themselves standing outside a castle gate kind of door thing, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And when they go in, there's like weird dragon crocodile heads on the wall, and paintings and stuff, and statues, and a bit of music, and a wee fireplace and stuff. But um, Trelane himself, I've got down here because we've talked about this before with Charlie X, right?
Mm-hmm.
General Trelane is another version of Q version 0.1,
Yep, I wrote down
right?
lots of Q-like
Right.
beings in this galaxy. What the hell, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and that's a theme that we'll come across even more and more in the original series because they
Yeah, yeah.
really leaned into that crap. Um, what else we got? Trelane is a mad racist. He's
Yes,
he's a he's
yes,
a
he is.
mad racist. He keeps commenting on Uhura's skin color and
Uh-huh.
keeps like putting people into like boxes based on like it's a really weird, some really weird language from him. That is very pointedly not cool. Um, and he's definitely a early Q version because he even judges Kirk in a courtroom. Uh, and clearly he has power that's never been earned. He was just given it. And we'll come to that a bit later because that's the end of the episode, that bit. But um, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one that's a theme that we stick with. And oh god, we're moving fast today. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like a weird one. I don't know how I feel about all these episodes with characters that have godlike powers because it's all variations on a theme, right? It is all variations on a theme. And when you've seen it once, you've seen it a million times. Um, and you can give it extra flavor all you want, but at the end of the day, man snaps fingers, man disappears is only going to take you so far when it comes to writing a
Yeah,
story. So,
I agree. I mean, it's pretty tough, man. It's pretty tough. It's this episode. Okay, so what it really felt like is Trelane felt like a Frenchman that was living in Louisiana, right?
mm-hmm.
Is what that felt like. Did you notice what was above the bar or above the fireplace?
No, no, I wasn't.
There,
I'm
there
really
was an
attention.
animal. There was an animal.
Oh, was it a cow?
Um, no, it was an alligator.
An alligator.
Yeah, he had a mounted alligator head wearing a hat above the fireplace.
Didn't even notice. Didn't even notice.
Yeah, because it kind of ties into the whole Frenchman living in Louisiana thing
Mm,
is what it because it's what it felt like. I wrote down big computer, very 1960s, like when they were talking about the computer to control like how big it would be and stuff is very 19
mm,
computer stuff. And then obviously we talked about Uhura mentions um, Space Fleet Command. So not Starfleet Command, not Starfleet. Um, it was Space Fleet Command. So again, different writers and everybody just making up words. I guess that's fine. No dramaturg on this show very early on. You can tell that.
clearly.
Um, what's that? Hold on. What's going on? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, it was very meh. No. It was an okay episode. You know I liked the duel. I thought that was pretty good.
Mm, mm,
He felt like a young Q,
mm.
right? Is what it felt like to me. It felt like a young Q. It felt like a oh wait, all right, that guy's over there now. I ran away. I thought we were done, so I ran away, but tells you how much
No,
I was paying attention.
no. I've opened up this device like 3 times now, and we've still not managed to make it through. So there we go.
All right.
There we
All
go.
right. But it didn't feel like, later on we're gonna invoice Q's have a baby or whatever. Um, when he's a young man on Voyager. The
Mm-hmm.
Q on Voyager is a young man, but this felt like a little bit older of a Q, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Cube 1.5. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I thought Q was a fairly interesting idea when it was first done in TNG, but I had probably hadn't watched TOS in a long time, and now I'm a little disappointed because it was like every other
Oh,
episode. It
this
feels
guy
like
has the
there was.
macrovirus.
What's that?
This guy has already unlocked the macrovirus. I just saw it floating beside me there. I was like,
Oh,
oh
cool.
okay.
Do you have anything? I mean, again, mm, what'd you think? I mean, any last thoughts about this one?
um, I thought this one was fun. There was some bits and pieces about it that I didn't quite like, but honestly, they were passable. Um, of all the godlike beings with inexplicable powers episodes that we've had so far, I think this was probably in the top two of them, honestly. Purely because
Yeah.
it felt like it was trying to be more fun with it rather than it try to be
Mhm,
mysterious and,
mhm.
dangerous and stuff. It felt like being stuck in the madhouse and the
Mhm,
guy with the keys was a patient. That's what it felt like. And I liked
mhm.
that because it created more of a danger than just here's a madman with power or here's a thing you don't understand with power. Deal with it. And in this instance, again though, again, they don't actually solve the problem themselves. They're saved by someone else.
Mommy and
Yeah,
mommy and daddy.
yeah. Um, I didn't like that. I felt like we had got past that. Um, but
I
obviously we
mean, I
didn't.
definitely,
So.
it definitely feels like, I mean, we're in the midst of the beginnings of the space race, right here on
Mm,
Earth.
mhm,
We're America's in the middle of a war. We're racing the Russians to the moon and into space and doing all those things, and it's incredibly hard. So it definitely felt like an episode where uh, there's there's they were trying to show how like completely and wholly unprepared we were to go into space, right?
mhm, mhm.
Kind of felt a little propaganda-ish, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I don't know. It was a good episode. It was a good episode. Um, I did not pick it. And I definitely think that this is probably the groundwork of Q, right?
Mhm.
As a being like being kind of a trickster and a prankster and like becoming Napoleon and becoming a Marine general
I mean, even
in episode
Q
one.
does actually do that as well. Like he straight up does that, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of Q becomes a pugilist when he fights Cisco. And, like all the different there's just different ways where Q becomes the trickster, which I quite I mean we all love Q now, right? But did we really love Q back in the day?
Mm, not immediately, no, not immediately. But I
Yeah.
can see. But I think we're at a point now in storytelling where everybody likes the mischievous god
Hmm.
character, right? Because there's been so many of them now in popular culture that
Hmm.
it's been normalized, and if they're written well, it's entirely understandable why people would like them.
Hmm.
Um, and then they
Absolutely.
humanize them by bringing them down a peg, or they try and develop a story, or whatever. And in this instance, yeah, like you don't,
Or we trick them,
or
right?
we trick them.
Mixelplick on Super Friends, and
Hmm.
well, I forget what the alien's name was on the Flintstones back then. There was a lot of these kind of like there was not an alien, it was a guy from the future that came back to the past, and he had I forgot what the thing's name was on Flintstones. And if anybody knows in the chat, please let me know. Not I know you're a walking encyclopedia.
Civil bottles of Broadway.
um, yeah. What do you rate this one?
Um, I hmm, um, as a story, it's probably like a 7 or an 8. Um, as an episode so far, from what we've seen of TOS so far, I would probably say an 8, just because it felt like a more evolved version of the stories that we've had before that weren't great. So at least it felt like we were making progress towards something that was really good. Um, didn't quite
I
make the mark, but like it's almost there.
I agree. From a universal super being, this is a much more interesting universal being than the one like the Charlie X or what we're about to see or
Hmm.
anything like
Hmm.
that. So after this PFO, I'm gonna take a little break. This will be a good spot to probably we're an hour and a half in, so this will be a good spot to break up the episode
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
the YouTube audience, and then come back and we'll finish up the 19, 20, and 21. I got a lot to. I wrote down. I didn't write down that much about 19, but we did 100 times, right? So
19, 20, and 21. What?
yeah, that's what we have left. Episodes 19,
Oh,
20, and
sorry.
21.
I was like, why are we talking about 19, 20, and 21? I realized you weren't talking about years. You're talking about episodes. Right. Cool. Okay. Cool. Uh,
Oh,
I
the
also
Borg
like the
ship
order, to
blew
be
up.
honest.
Oh, hold on. Let me turn that down. If that's too loud, let me turn that down. I don't want
The Borg ship
you.
blew up.
The question is, we see a lot of universal beings, like really powerful beings, right? In the '60s, you've got Mixelplick in what was it, Super Friends, right? And
Hmm.
then even the Flintstones had a like a prankster trickster that was from the future. Do you remember the Flintstone future guys? I'm too busy to Googlefy that right now.
I honestly cannot remember. Cannot
Yeah.
remember. I'll be entirely honest. I didn't watch a lot of Flintstones growing up. It was a
Well,
little
yeah,
bit before my time.
yeah,
A little bit.
Well,
Just
yeah, yeah. Well,
only just.
it was before my time too, but it was still a thing that we watched in reruns every day.
Just funny because like I watched a lot of Tom and Jerry, but just not a lot of
Mm.
Flintstones and Jetsons and stuff
The
like that.
Great Gazoo. Good job, the Great Gazoo. It was the Great Gazoo. Good job, good
Great
job, good job. Yeah, you're
Gazoo.
right. The Great Gazoo. Yeah, that's excellent. Um, yeah, it's just like yeah, we were definitely I don't know. Hollywood was trying to send a message. Um, I don't know. Good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, these ones were fun. And I would also, like I said, in case I didn't say it, I would also give the Squire of Gothos probably an 8
Yeah.
on the scale. It was a good episode. I liked Trelane. He's a racist and a psychopath, and he wants to. And I love the duel. And the alligator with the hat over
Hmm.
the bar. Like it was just the head too, and it was a big gator. It wasn't a small one.
Hmm.
So this anti-ship missile does not want to die. Did you see that?
I did see that.
I was shooting and shooting and shooting it, but it won't die.
It won't die.
Um, yeah, I love this kind of stuff. Like going back and looking at this stuff with 2024 eyes has been pretty fun.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, and I'm very surprised at how much it holds up too. But I mean, maybe I shouldn't be, but I definitely am surprised by how much it's holding up.
Hmm.
Even, I mean, I think that the biggest thing that they did is they upres the ship exteriors.
Hmm.
I don't know how much that has to do with these. I mean, I wonder. I kind of want to go back and see what the. I would love to be able to like have a side by side comparison and look at one of those scenes. I'm sure it's out there on the internet now. Somebody can somebody can send it to us or put it in the YouTube chat or comments if they want. If there's a side by side comparison with somebody who's done like the old exterior visuals and the new.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
It'd be
someone
kind of
somewhere will have done it. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. If somebody that's watching this later on YouTube knows of it, put it in the comments so we can
Go
check it out because
go
that would
be
be
losers
cool.
and check it out. Yeah.
I would definitely check it out because I think it's super interesting. Because like I said, I mean, I'm really surprised how well it holds up. Um, there's some stuff that I was surprised. I'm surprised at how well it holds. But I guess good storytelling is good storytelling.
That's what makes a classic story a classic story. It doesn't
Yeah.
age through time.
Yeah.
But I think that's
I
another
mean,
reason. That's another reason to point towards unique stories that don't necessarily lean on real world events, right? Or are not directly influenced by real world events, because those stories are only good when they're relevant, right? But a story that in and of itself is strong and all everything you need from it is in it, rather than relying on external knowledge or external events to kind of justify its position in the story. The story overall is, yeah, it's it's a good standalone episode. You could watch that episode of TOS and have a good time with it and not feel like you've wasted your time. There have been a couple of them so far that have felt like that. Um,
hmm
this one definitely wasn't one of those.
yeah, this it's definitely the graph this week is pretty amazing, right?
Mm, mm,
As far as up and downs, and there's lots of ups and lots of downs and
mm.
anything in between, I guess.
I'm not able to do the transports on this because I kill them every time. This opening salvo absolutely ruins them. Um,
Well, we are on advanced. It's not as
yeah,
bad.
yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's not as bad on advanced because the warp core breaches are not as powerful.
It's not the worker breaches is the problem. My opening salvo destroys it before it even goes into the vulnerable state.
I love how far away from the thing you can do. Why are you coming over here with me, dude? You don't need to escort me. I got this. I got you, boo boo.
We had quite a large lunch today, and I was gonna cuss his way out again tonight, and I was gonna order in, but yeah, look, see, look, dead. Um,
Yeah, bastard.
yeah. Um, yeah, good
It,
episode. Would say, there you go. That one's dead as well. See,
you need to back away then,
it's me.
sir.
It's me. Every time it's me.
Stop being such a
Um,
murderous
stop being too
bastard.
good at the game. Stop it. Um, yeah, not bad. 8 out of 10. We're getting there. It's the best episode of this type so far. Um, I
hmm
hope so badly that the next version of this episode is also good, because it'd be sad to see them go backwards on it. And we know we're going to get another one anyway, so
Well, I would even say that we are
I'm sure you
going
would
to.
say something, but your mic keeps cutting out, and I can't hear you when you do that.
I'm sorry. No, I was trying to formulate thoughts. What I was saying was, are we not going to get another Universal Super Being in the very next episode?
The next episode is Arena.
Hmm?
No.
You wouldn't call the guys at the end Universal Super Beings? I would. I kind of called them Greek god. They dressed them like Greek gods and or Roman gods,
Am
and
I tripping balls here? Have I missed an episode? There's no way I've missed an episode.
no, I mean Arena is the next episode, but the guys that put them all on the planet, like Kirk meets one at the very end, and
Oh,
it's another.
no, no, no.
We
Manos
don't. We
Man
don't.
Manos for Arena is come under attack, no sign of attackers, Gorn fight, zombie Gorn fight, knife with fight with a Gorn. Like that's what I've got.
And then there's a Gorn, and then there's another
That's the
Gorn,
Gorn,
and
yeah.
then there's some more Gorn, and then the Gorn trips Kurt because the Gorn like Kurt's too
Right, no,
stupid
stop. We're talking about the next episode. We've not even introduced it yet. Right, so let's go.
Well, I'm gonna take a little break and go grab a drink real quick, and
Sure.
after this one, and then this will be a good place to after this TFO, it'll be a good place to split this up for YouTube, and then we'll do the last three. Because I've got a lot to say about. I wrote down a lot for 20 and 21.
Yeah.
Do we see any of these planets in Star Trek? Taurus, I feel like we do, right? Tarsus from Galileo 7 episode we see it. What about this one? Do we see the planet again?
Cestus 3. Oh no, that's you're talking about Trelane Man. I don't think so. No.
We don't see that. Okay. All right.
No.
All right. All right. Well, that's cool. Oh, can I skip through this? No. Hey, unskippable cutscenes are always so good.
Everyone always goes for the ads on this, but you can totally skip the ads on this one. Just focus him down.
Can you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm running a scatter volley build, so it's not like I'm actively attacking anything other
Than everything.
Bring me everyone. All right, I am going to take a little break, couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And I will be right back, guys, and we will finish this up.
Yes.
Mr. Bob, this comes at bar break 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Galactic wars and twisted schemes, delightful chaos ruling their dreams. Unpolished words and witty flair, review with mischief without a care. Only go where no one's been. Mac and Dan, the conquering team, reviewing space with snarky lines, drinking games and warping minds. My wife just got home with groceries, so that's gonna have to do